YouTube, how's it going? The GOAT House is back after day one of the NFL draft, and like every single year, I'm here grading every single first round pick, breaking each pick down. A lot of these are growing on me. I'm liking the fit, liking it more and more after I slept on some of these picks to think about it more. So I'm going to grade every pick like we do here every single year. We got plenty of videos on the channel covering the draft, plenty more to come. Very important, I'm not grading the player. I'm not grading the player's performance. It's not a prediction for this year. I'm grading the value of the pick. How was the value? You know, did they get a steal? Was it a reach? Was it correct value? Were there picks involved in terms of trades back? You know, you lost picks, you gained picks. All that plays a part. It's how I always graded this. It makes the most sense to me. So I'm going to break it all down here. Day 2 and day 3, my favorite days of the NFL draft every single year. I'll have you covered fully on our Twitter, breaking down every single pick, my thoughts. So go follow that Twitter at GoatHouseNFL. There's a link down in the comments and description, along with other links that you may need. Make sure you subscribe, turn notifications on. We'll have you covered throughout this 3-day event. 2 more days left, you know, with all the content you can think of. So hopefully you join us for all that. Yeah, here's the schedule. Thursday, done with. Friday, we got, that's today. I'm grading every first round pick. Let me get myself out of the way. Day 2 mock draft still coming today. I'll mock rounds 2 and 3, live analysis for every pick. There's our Twitter. Day 2 winners and losers tonight. Then Saturday, same situation on Twitter. Day 3 winners, and then we'll do best undrafted free agent signings at the end of the night on Saturday. So really looking forward to all that. First pick of the draft was Trevor Lawrence to the Jags, as expected here, obviously. I gave it an A. You know, there's nothing to really jump out of your seats at this point about it in terms of value because, I mean, you know, you can't get a steal at the first overall pick, but they get the best player in the draft. You know, times are changing in Jacksonville. They finally got a quarterback. I know people were trying to believe in Gardner Minshew, but it's a major difference, major upgrade here. So they get their guy. That's an A grade, you know, only giving out the A pluses for tremendous value, you know, on top of everything else there. But, yeah, the Jags get an A from me. Pick 2 went as expected. Zach Wilson, I gave it an A as well. It's pretty much the same situation. You know, second best quarterback we kind of expected. I do love the fit. You know, I guess the difference is Lawrence was the first overall player on my board. Wilson was 4, even though we make the exception for quarterbacks. If you need one like that, you take them. But I really love the fit. I love the fit here in this West Coast style offense. It's perfect. You know, a lot of similar concepts, what he ran at BYU. And then people say, you know, he didn't play the best competition at BYU. Didn't have the best talent around him, though. You know, now in the NFL atmosphere, you know, with you know, what's around on the Jets, putting some talent together there on both sides of the ball. So, you know, and what young guys they already had developing. So, again, it was the right pick. I love the fit here, so I give it an A. We go on to the third pick, and I think there's going to be a mistake people make with this third pick. I gave it a C+. I love Lance's upside. I think he could be a good quarterback. Again, I'm not grading the player. I'm grading the value of the pick. Like I said, I think there's going to be a mistake being made here. I think people are going to grade this. I don't really know. But maybe fans, I can see people in the comments saying Trey Lance is better than Mac Jones. You can't grade it based off of Trey Lance versus Mac Jones. Anybody doing that, they are wrong. You know, that's not opinion-based. You know, there wasn't 2 players in the draft for the 49ers. You know, I know the fans really wanted Justin Fields. We knew that wasn't going to happen, so I hope they didn't talk themselves into this being a great pick. You can definitely be confident, definitely be excited about the future here for sure. Lance has a lot of upside. I love his running ability. Overall, you know, a top 5 quarterback in this class. Obviously, I had him at number 4 quarterback. You know, in terms of the third overall pick, what they traded away on top of that, I mean, you know, you don't love the value here. You did get your quarterback. You needed a quarterback in the future. I just don't love the value. If we're talking quarterback, I would have went Justin Fields. You know, we knew they were going quarterback, but yeah, you know, it's just what they traded away at pick 3. It does, you know, it doesn't really feel like great value here in what I'm grading things off of. You know, another thing is, you know, Trey Lance, you know, I think why I thought he was kind of a safe pick is because worst case scenario, he's kind of a run first guy. You know, I'm still surprised that Shanahan went with that. He's not necessarily a run first guy. I'm saying that's worst case if you can't really figure out in terms of the passing game. You know, he's got an arm, it's just inconsistent with the accuracy. We saw it throughout the career. We saw it the one game he played. That's another thing, too. Played one game this year, was a little sloppy. I'm just surprised about the pick, to be honest. But, yeah, just matching up Lance with what they traded in pick 3, you know, it's a lot. You know, it's a lot. The value really doesn't match there. But again, a ton of upside. I'm really excited to watch. I hope they start him day one. You know, this is a win now team. Are they going to be able to win now with this? You know, probably not. But I do hope that they start him right away to get him going. You know, because you don't trade all that away, pick him 3 to not start him. You know, it makes no sense. Obviously, they don't have any trust in Jimmy Garoppolo to do all this. You know, he has the injury concern as well. You're not going to win right now with Garoppolo. So I really thought it was going to be Mac Jones. You know, so that was a little bit of a surprise to me. And I mean, it's reality that they traded up for Mac Jones, and somewhere along the lines they decided to go. They changed their mind going for Trey Lance. So it's, you know, I think we were talking about, you know, the Bears taking Trubisky over. It's really not the same thing, but taking Trubisky over the other quarterbacks for so long, I think it's not the same thing at all. But I think the only way to compare it to it is we're going to be talking about this for a long time. You know, people are going to be saying, should they have stuck to their original judgment in Mac Jones? You know, that's what we're going to be saying in a long time. And I'm not saying Lance is the better overall talent, more upside compared to Mac Jones. So, but it's something that everyone's going to be talking about for a long, long time. Pick 4, go Kyle Pitts here. I give it an A. Expected pick, you know, not crazy value. I have him 2 overall on my board, which is fantastic. Got a great player, fits Arthur Smith's scheme. You know, they can use him and Hayden Hurst and Julio and Calvin Ridley. So, you know, Arthur Smith running 2 receivers, 2 tight ends makes a lot of sense there. See if they can grab a running back here in day 2. But Kyle Pitts is just a generational talent, just a top-tier talent here that's going to take over, can compete for the Offensive Rookie of the Year for sure with his production in line, in the slot, outside. They're going to use him all those different ways. So it's going to be very, very fun to watch. Pick 5, Jamar Chase. I went A. I know a lot of people really wanting to take line. I've been kind of sticking with the Chase prediction for some time here. You know, just because they value having 3 receivers, number 1 receivers out there, because that's that offense. They're going to have 3 number 1 receivers out there. And they need an X receiver really bad. Jamar Chase fits that. He also has the chemistry of Joe Burrow. Offensive line, there was some pretty good ones there, but it all depended on what I talked about all offseason. Jonah Williams, did they view him as a tackle still, or do they want to move him to guard? They signed Riley Reid for right tackle. You know, they viewed their biggest need as a guard. They're not moving Jonah Williams. You know, the offensive line, best case scenario for specifically the offensive line, maybe move Jonah Williams to guard and then draft the tackle, but then you wouldn't have the great player of Jamar Chase then. You know, my number 3 player in the draft, it's an elite wide receiver, you know, all around. He has everything to his game. My favorite thing is tracking ability in his body language, fooling cornerbacks. He gets corners thinking the ball's going to go one way, it goes another way. I love that. You rarely see that. It's a loaded receiver group. They still need line, interior line. You can find interior. The only interior guy that went day 1 was Elijah Vera Tucker, so keep that in mind. There was no Jamar Chase on day 2. There was no, you know, Terrace Marshall played for LSU. He played in the slot. De'Ami Brown was probably the other outside option here. I like De'Ami Brown. Pretty big difference here. So I give it an A. I love me some Jamar Chase. I've been hyping him up for a long, long time. Pick 6, Jalen Waddle. I gave it a B- here. Yeah, if you guys watch this live, I mean, me talking the last couple of weeks, I really wanted to take Devonte Smith. There are some people, obviously the Dolphins, that have Waddle over Devonte Smith. I just don't really agree with it, you know. Phenomenal player, and that's why it's in the B range still. You know, they're going to be fast. The thought of Waddle with Fuller, and then you balance it with Devontae Parker there, you know, and to help Tua's progression, fantastic. They got a lot better. It's a home run type of guy. I mean, he does some things that people, I think that's what stands out to the people that love Waddle. He does some things that just really nobody can do. You know, I think specifically one thing that stood out to me is his ability to leap and track the ball at full speed. I saw that many a times in the end zone, downfield. You know, it's just, humans just can't do it, you know. So he has some crazy, unnatural, you know, or, you know, things that just don't come natural to people, you know, players. And that is what really stands out. You know, in terms of a receiver, though, I think Devonte Smith is clearly, I don't think there's really a debate. There's more to his game as a receiver. You know, Waddle's going to be a little faster. You know, Devonte Smith may be a little undersized. You know, Waddle's a little on the shorter side, but, you know, Waddle brings the return game to that. I mean, so does Devonte Smith, but just talk about how the Dolphins got better here. I think it's fantastic. Yeah, I had Waddle pegged. You know, it made more sense closer to that, even though we knew he probably can go around here, but yeah, kind of in that 10 range. Felt like a top 10 player, but yeah, that's the thing. I just really want him to go Devonte Smith here. So that's a big thing for me. I mean, Devonte Smith was crazy productive with Tua Tagovailoa while splitting with Jerry Jeudy and Henry Ruggs, and that says a lot. And Waddle was not really playing too much, kind of used special teams, gadget guy here and there. And then Tua got hurt, and they started getting Waddle going a little more. Then the next year, which was this year, they got Waddle going until he got hurt. So I just, there was so many things that just pointed towards Devonte Smith to me. So I would have preferred that. Again, they still get a big-time player here, and in Jalen Waddle, they get a lot better. I gave it a B- for those reasons. Next, 7, Penei Sewell to the Lions, A-. This is one that's really growing on me. So I give it a great grade in the A range. Maybe why I tack on the minus here is, my pick probably, once again, probably would have been Devonte Smith here. I think they needed that receiver very badly. I thought it was a perfect fit for Jared Goff with, just kind of scheming things open for him. That's kind of what you do over the middle of the field, wherever it is. But Penei Sewell is just a fantastic tackle here. Really growing on me too, because I did talk about it at times. They brought in kind of a Saints coaching staff over there obviously in Detroit, and they really value offensive line. That's probably where their top value is, completing the offensive line. They did that here. They did that. We started to hear Sewell was kind of getting the idea he might play right tackle somewhere. Here it is, because Taylor Decker is a phenomenal left tackle. Penei Sewell will play right tackle for the Lions. They signed different staff, signed Big V from the Eagles to move from guard to tackle. Not ideal. Now they're going to move him to guard. He's a pretty good guard. That's a pretty good guard. And they got a couple rookies they drafted last year. Frank Ragnow is a pretty damn good center. This offensive line is looking real good. Real good. Jared Goff is well protected. I think this offensive line is better than the Rams. Rams were hot and cold. 1 week they look like the best offensive line in football. And then 1 week, I think in the most important times of the year down the stretch in the playoffs, they look like a disaster. So I do think the Lions' offensive line is much better as long as they're coached well. I think they will be. So it's really growing on me. I really, really liked what. It's obviously not jump out. It's not wow. It's not like crazy value. Obviously not that, but they got their offensive line set. I think it's set for a long, long time. The more I talk about it, the more I think it, the more I love it. And I always talked about Sewell Slater. I said, this team, Slater's number 1 tackle. This team, Sewell's the number 1 tackle. It made a lot of sense. It's really not about the actual offense tackle. It's about scheme and the unit really and how it's coached, because, one guy doesn't make up an offensive line. But I do think Sewell is correctly the number 1 tackle for the Detroit Lions. I think it exactly fits what Anthony Lynn over there is trying to do with his offense, the blocking scheme. So you'll see a good mixture of things for them. A lot of inside zone gap with DeAndre Swift in there as well, but it's gonna be a lot of fun. I really like that fit. I love the way they complete the offensive line. So that one, it's really growing. I mean, I can't, A- a great grade. I can't give it a wow. It's a pretty wow grade, I guess, but it's not like jump out of your seat. Well, how do they pull that off? Obviously, but it's really growing on me. I love it. 8 was J.C. Horn. It's definitely an interesting pick. I gave it a B here. J.C. Horn was my top corner, but it was the same thing like the tackle situation. It was depending on the team. It really depended on the team. Some had Surtain, some had Horn. I really thought Surtain was going to be the Panthers' number 1 corner, because I felt a lot, I thought Surtain could be better zone than he is man. I thought he had upside there, where the Panthers, and this is where it gets interesting, because the Panthers run more cover 3 than anybody. I think a lot plays with Jeremy Chin, his role kind of being that linebacker safety hybrid. They call it robber coverage, and that's kind of that robber position with that hybrid player. So there's two ways we can look at this. They're going to continue to run cover 3, and they're going to have to bank on Horn developing in zone, because he didn't run a whole bunch of zone. When he did, it didn't look anywhere near the tape of his man. So that's kind of the downside. Overall, they got a good corner here. Got a very good corner. Other thing I've been hearing, they may go more press man and then keep Jeremy Chin more like a safety. That is great for J.C. Horn. That's not great for Jeremy Chin. Jeremy Chin's pure safety tape at Southern Illinois, a little messy. You need to be able to move around, so he gets affected by that. So there isn't really a win-win here. It's kind of a good, if they can develop J.C. Horn's zone, that'd be fantastic. But why he's the number 1 corner off the board is because of his press man technique. So maybe they'll run a good mixture. Usually those cover 3s with that robber type player don't really change much, But again, if they do, it's going to affect Jeremy Chin. Overall, they get a good corner. I mean, a B's a good grade here because they get a good corner. I love J.C. Horn. I love his ability to come up and tackle. I love his press ability, the lack of separation that he allowed. If they do run a lot of zone, he's got some work to do, but he's, it's not like he's not going to be a good zone corner. He's still going to be a good corner here. So it's a very interesting pick here. Very interesting pick. Would this have been the pick if I was on the clock? J.C. Horn's a fantastic player. Love him, but, it probably would have been something else, but then, to get punished really for that. Overall, B is a good grade. So it's just an interesting pick. Back-to-back corners, Patrick Surtain. I gave this one a B+. Similar to J.C. Horn, pretty good press man. I think Surtain has some upside in zone, but Vic Fangio and co., they will run. They'll run a mixture, but they'll run mainly man. So Surtain fits that. Surtain and Fuller, hell of a duo. Love Justin Simmons. Love Kareem Jackson. One more year for him. Bryce Callahan's a fantastic slot corner as well. There's a big downside of this, but it has nothing to do with grading this pick. It has nothing to do with this. It's outside, it's Ronald Darby. I did not grade that pick high at all, or that free agency signing high at all, because I don't think he's not a man guy. I thought he was a cover 3 guy. They don't run that there. They paid him $30 million. Paid him a lot of money. I thought too much. I think I gave it a D. Might have to bump that down even further down because that might be $30 million on the bench. They'll find a way to use him, but it's pretty tough. The guys I named: Surtain, Fuller, Callahan, Kareem Jackson, Justin Simmons. It's 5 right there. Pretty tough to use more DBs than that. He'll get some snaps. So that, that's different than this right here. I gave it a B+. Not tremendous value, obviously, but they're locking up that corner duo. Parsons could have been a pretty solid pick. They could have went with the quarterback. I don't like how they kind of wrote off the quarterbacks because they got Teddy Bridgewater and they have Drew Lock. They need to value that position a little more, in my opinion. So maybe that factored in a little bit to this, but overall B+, good grade. They got a good lockdown corner. He fits Fangio's scheme, him and Fuller. Fuller's only got one more year, so it could be Darby and Surtain after that. But I think after you see Fuller and Surtain in action, I think those fans are going to want those two locked up for a long time. So we'll see what they end up doing with the rest of the bunch there. But maybe Kareem Jackson one more year. Maybe they find a way to use Darby, like that. It's a possibility for sure. So we'll see. But again, like the fit, like Surtain there. Moving on, pick 10, Devonte Smith. This is pretty close to being an A+. Very close. It's kind of borderline. Because Devonte Smith was my number 5 player in the class, elite grade. He's a complete receiver. I guess maybe you don't like how thin he is, whatever. If you can play, you can play. He's been very healthy, of course, for Alabama. He was productive when he was very productive even when splitting with other solid receivers in the past. This guy, you can put him in the slot, you can put him outside. He's going to understand zone coverages, finding the open gap, in zones. He's going to beat man coverage because his twitchiness, his footwork is ridiculous, his route running ability. People forget that he can go up and catch the ball at a very high level. He's very good down to, it's really hard finding a negative to his game. This is Justin Jefferson from last year. He's going to have that instant impact. Eagles passed on Justin Jefferson. Now they get Devonte Smith, who was actually a high, better graded prospect than Justin Jefferson, even though they're both great, So all that's fantastic. They traded up 2 spots. They did giving up a 3rd round for a go to 12-10 is pretty rich. So maybe that's what's slightly keeping it off A+, but they had to jump the Giants, get their guy. So again, it's kind of borderline because you get one of my favorite prospects in the draft as well. It's an overall fit. They finally got a sure thing receiver. I hope. If Devonte Smith is healthy and can't figure it out for some reason, it's the Eagles' fault. They're doing something wrong. I don't know, because it just can't happen. It's not going to happen. It's not gonna. I give it an A. Justin Fields, I gave it an A. I guess similar situation. You almost want to give this one an A+ because the Bears we think they got a quarterback. They kind of been passing on this type of guy for so long. The freak ability, the upside ability, you just got to love it. They did it. They did it. They got a guy that can. They kind of wanted Trubisky to use his legs a little more. He couldn't really. I think he got banged up a little bit trying to, and he couldn't really do it a whole bunch. Fields we know can do it, but we know he's a pass first guy. Where he had success on, why the fit is growing on me. Where he had success. He had success in everything, but play action. The boots, getting out to the pocket, making everybody come up because this guy's a 4-4 guy. He's going to run, and he launches it downfield. The Bears were running a ton of that similar play style at the end of last year when they started winning, even with Trubisky. So I mean, it's a beautiful fit here. Love it. I want them to start him right away. They made a mistake of starting Glennon over Trubisky. Don't make the mistake here. Start him right away. They did trade up a future first, so that plays a part in the value. So, kind of like the Eagles one, it's, A plus range, but because they trade that, they won't be picking next year. So it's a lot of pressure on this one. And they did give up some big value there, but they got their guy here. This is big time. So, it's been pretty sad, I think, for Chicago fans. It would kind of get the feeling from that, in social media the last few months, but I think it's kind of revived right now. So this is big time for the city. It just really, Fields wasn't supposed to be here. The Niners fans, and the Niners should have taken Fields at 3. The Bears got him at 11, so that's pretty big time. Another borderline one there. I gave Micah Parsons to the Cowboys an A+. I just keep thinking about this, what happened here. Micah Parsons was my number 1 defensive player in the class because how much he can do, how much of a freak he is. He's versatile. He's involved in every part of the defense here. And we knew he'd probably be in this range, so you may say, why are you throwing the plus out there? But the Cowboys traded down, they got Micah Parsons and a 3rd-round pick. I know there's probably fans that are disappointed because they were corner or die. Micah Parsons is a better prospect to me than those corners. They weren't able to get those corners. I love day 2. I love the day 2 corners. The day 2 corners are fantastic. But at the end of the day, you get Parsons. There's some talk about moving Parsons, to a different spot, and that's the great thing. Everyone's confident about him doing that, but he doesn't have to. Cowboys, they signed Ken O'Neill to play 4-3 weak side, a little bit of a project, low risk, but Mike Parsons played that 4-3 weak side with Penn State. On obvious passing downs, they use him in the blitz on inside or off the edge because he can be an edge rusher. So he can do all of the above. I think you can use Keanu O'Neill as a safety. They didn't pay him much at all, so there's nothing wrong with that at all. Parsons, Jalen Smith, and Leighton Vander Esch makes a lot of sense. I think those guys kind of slide back into their correct linebacker position this year. I think last year they were slightly playing out of position, in my opinion. I think adding a guy like Parsons helps that. It helps the pass rush as well. DeMarcus Lawrence getting going. At the end of the day, they got my number 6 overall player, my best defensive player in the class, with a 3rd-round pick. So I give it an A+ in terms of the value there. I love it. Rashad Slater, I gave it an A+. Really all offseason, this guy really wasn't supposed to be here at this pick. There was some teams that had Slater ahead of Penei Sewell. Some teams the opposite, like the Lions, made a lot of sense. But they needed a left tackle so bad. They filled that center. But what good is the center if you don't have a line? If you don't have, the left side of the line, the left tackle specifically, it's no good, really, the center. That was my big problem, this offseason. But they went and got the left tackle, and that's perfect. It's very important for Justin Herbert there. New scheme in there, new coaching staff. They'll probably run a lot of outside zone. I think that's going to get, especially a guy like Eckler going. I think that's going to get him going quite a bit as well. The group of running backs overall, but having kind of a shifty, quick guy, I think that really they benefit each other there. So that's big time there, protecting Herbert as well. I already mentioned that, but it's huge for them. So now they can focus on everything else. They can take a deep breath here. And they get pretty damn good value here, and they get a fantastic prospect in Rashad Slater, who played against he played his best ball against the best competition in 2019 when he played it. 14, Elijah Vera Tucker, one that's grown on me a little bit. Originally, first thought, still solid, but they traded up pretty far. They gave up 2 third-round picks to get a guard. It's not super sexy. You don't love it too much, even though this was Vera Tucker's range here. But it's really growing on me because they could afford to do that. They had picks. They moved up. They still had questions along the offensive line, specifically at guard. And they get the best guard in the class here. I was a little worried somebody's going to take him for tackle. I do like him a lot more at guard. I think he could be a Pro Bowl guard. So you're really protecting Zach Wilson here. You still have that second pick in the second round. You're focusing on a lot of things. You did give up some value. You do have to go up a bit, but I think you get the job done here, and the offensive line's really coming together. So I give it a B+ overall. I like that the Jets aren't afraid to make moves here in completing this offensive line. They do have other big needs. They do have quite a bit, so they can focus on that now, though. 15, Mac Jones. I end up giving this an A+. I mean, Mac Jones really wasn't supposed to be here, and the Patriots were supposed to trade up, but they didn't really want to trade any future away. They don't like trading those picks. And they're smart. They stay put. Mac Jones falls to them. I think they liked Mac Jones over some of the other quarterbacks, whether you agree or not. I really think they did. This team's a win-now team. They're very damn complete. It's just on Cam Newton. He's very inconsistent with his ball placement, very inconsistent. It doesn't really feel like he's ever been 100%. You get Mac Jones. You can scheme things up. They're gonna ask him just to put the ball where it needs to be on time. It's exactly what he does. He just wasn't supposed to be, or he fell right in their lap. If he starts, it's a candidate for Rookie of the Year. There's a lot of anti-Mac Jones people out there, but it really is. Honestly, they have a load of wide receivers. I would really like for them to get. I would like for them to grab somebody else. I actually would really like for them to grab a separator. And they again. They hung on to their day 2 picks, which we really didn't expect them to do. They got a pretty early second-round pick. They can do that with that. So you can complete this. You can make this maybe they don't have the most elite talent, the wow talent, but you can make it, in terms of a roster, pretty juggernaut-ish roster. So, growing on me. Another one that's kind of growing on me. At the time, I thought too. He wasn't supposed to be there. He fell right in their lap. 16, not a good grade here for Zaven Collins. We started to hear this could happen. I was really thinking, could it really? I know the Cardinals fans really wanted to corner. They didn't really fall, but then they ended up reaching for Zaven Collins. Zaven Collins, I thought could have, in terms of my grade, how I thought, I thought he needed the right team first off. I thought the back end of the first round. Then you hear him weighing in at 270, and that just says he's not going to continue to play linebacker. He's going to play edge rusher, but he's a project edge rusher. Still not ruling out the chance to play linebacker, whatever team he goes to. This is kind of my thinking pre-draft, but it kind of took a knock for him. But the Cardinals taking him is interesting. Sometimes I would mock them Jalen Phillips, who I love. I think other people would too, and the Cardinals fans would just rip it. But instead, I think at this point you want to take that back. I wish we got Jalen Phillips. Now you get a project pass rusher. Some people think they're going to use him at linebacker. Off the ball. First off, he didn't play inside for Tulsa. I know he didn't play edge either. They have Hicks. They have Isaiah Simmons, I think, is going to be a phenomenal ball player. But they kind of had the project with their scheme in Isaiah Simmons. Now this is more of a project. He played outside linebacker, not an edge rusher, in Tulsa's scheme, and they used him kind of as a hybrid player. But he played such a role where he's just not going to play no matter where he went. He's definitely not going to play for Cardinals. Where he thrived, he sat in the middle of the field, kind of free roamed, read the quarterback's eyes. He's just not going to be doing those things, or I shouldn't say the middle of the field, kind of where he wanted to go. It was almost a free roam where he's just not going to be able to do it. But so the good thing is he can learn from a good group of veteran guys. He can learn to be a solid edge rusher. I do think we'll see more snaps from for the actual edge rush position. Chandler Jones, but Kennard and Gardeck, definitely Gardeck as well. So it's kind of, their offseason said Super Bowl or bust is really what it said, what they did. And this is the complete opposite of that pick. So it's a little contradicting on top of it. And I think that maybe the good thing about putting him as an edge rusher, it does kind of hide his weakness as a linebacker. He can tackle if he's straight up, ready to tackle, but he can get juked pretty bad. Change of direction tackling, not ideal. But if you put him at edge, it kind of hides that. But he's got a ways to go because he was not an edge rusher. He just wasn't that. So it's definitely an interesting pick to say the least. 17, Alex Leatherwood, another one. I'm going to give it a D-. I actually liked and was hyping up Alex Leatherwood as a guard, but that was at the end of the first or early second, and it sounds like the Raiders just drafted him too early at 17 for tackle. Then they saw a little Trent Brown in him, but to me, Trent Brown a lot more athletic, quicker with his feet. Leatherwood, kind of had a problem with the speed rushers. Even though maybe they didn't sack Mac Jones because Mac Jones was getting the ball out very quickly. It's a lot different in the NFL. So, in the NFL pass rusher, a lot different. So he's gonna give up his fair share there. I would rather start Denzel Good. They can use him at guard, obviously, too, but I'd rather start him at tackle. So I just don't understand how the Raiders just keep doing this. And they even said, what they said afterward, they knew it would be controversial. If you know that, then I don't know. It's crazy what they do here. Tevin Jenkins was a much better fit at right tackle. Christian Darsaw was still on the board. There was talked about teams moving him to right tackle, and he's just that good where you can do it because he's that talented. So maybe I'm even being generous here. It's just a really confusing pick, but he does kind of fit what this. They had that swing tackle at left with Colton Miller. In this kind of this bully type of tackle. Power tackle here on the right side. it makes sense in a way, but I don't know, man. 18, Jalen Phillips was the number 1 pass rusher. It wasn't even close. He was my number 1 pass rusher in the class, even though I really like the other pass rushers too. It's a very good rusher class. And he's my number 10 overall player. And we didn't know he can go around this range, but I don't really care. I'm a big fan of Jalen Phillips, the Dolphins. I'm excited about the Dolphins too because enough messing around with that hybrid stuff. They cut Van Noy, which I do like Van Noy, but it kind of tells us that direction. I kind of been talking about this the offseason. Do they go for just pure pass rushers off the outside? Ugba, Phillips, they do. The hybrid really doesn't work unless you're the Patriots. You have that personnel. So it makes sense. Their defense was good last year. I think it was because it created turnovers, and you get a guy like Phillips, and usually you can't repeat that. They did give up some yards, but they kind of go. I think they're going for more of a base defense here, probably a 4-3, and they're going to create a lot with a guy like Jalen Phillips out there. It's going to help the rest of the team. So really excited about that. Was a big Jalen Phillips guy. Was one of my guys of the draft. So really excited about that for the Dolphins, big time. Jamin Davis to Washington. We started to feel this could happen. I mocked this at one point because we heard Jamin Davis could go in the teens. He is the best true inside linebacker in the class. There's a shortage on him. And Micah Parsons could move inside, of course, and then he could end up being. But Jamin Davis was the true best inside. A lot of upside, only 1 year as a starter. Was getting better every step of the way. Was kind of good in coverage the whole way, but in terms of filling the correct gap, getting downhill, making the tackle, making correct reads, like I said, that was improving every step of the way. So that was fantastic. I mean, this defense could be the best defense in football. So, Davis around that supporting cast, around that group, he could look like one of the best defensive rookies this year. Just not really a wow pick. Darsaw kind of fell right in their lap. That was perfect. He wasn't really supposed to be there, and that would have had them set in the offensive line. So they're still looking out for maybe the starting quarterback of the future and that left tackle to protect that guy of the future. So that's still a work in progress, but the defense is looking great. Rivera just couldn't resist here. Again, he'll fit right in. He'll start at inside linebacker. He'll make some plays with that group. 20, Kadarius Toney. It's a tough one, too, because the Giants got a first-round pick out of this. They got a first-round pick. They got the Bears' first-round pick. The Bears could either be a very bad team or they could be a pretty sneaky good team. So they have that range where it's kind of a good thing with the Giants. Like, they could be getting a top 10 pick for that. They could be. Not my prediction or anything, but I think everyone gets what my point is here. So that's fantastic. That alone, I think, is keeping it at a B here. I do like Kadarius Toney. He's a weapon. He's getting better. He kind of came out of nowhere last year. But they're just insisting. We knew they were going to insist on Daniel Jones. Whatever, we're past that. They're going to insist on the development there, but they're insisting on the offensive line development too, which I don't. It doesn't make any sense if you're going to insist on Daniel Jones. The offensive line, plain and simple, isn't that good. And you had your opportunities here. Toney, I thought, kind of the back part of the 20s. That doesn't mean it's a reach. It's in that range, sure. You got Galladay, you got Shepard, you got Slayton. How are you going to use all four? You can just use this guy for, there's a lot of questions. You can use him for gadget. You should be using him more than that. So who's hitting the bench? A lot of those questions come up. So, I'm not really in love with it, the idea of it. Why did they have to have this guy? They got a first-round pick out of it too, though. So that kind of factors in, keeps it, in that B range, which is a good grade still. Next, Kwity Paye. I like this for the Colts. I gave it an A. It's, we knew he would go around this range. I kept mocking around this range. We knew this was a possibility for the Colts. It was tempting probably for them because Darsaw was not supposed to be on the board. They could have taken him at left tackle, and they could have been set, but they needed edge rush very, very – they weren't going to survive without grabbing an edge rusher like this, and they got one here. And the fit is really growing on me more. It kind of reminds me of Arik Armstead, who played DN and slid inside for the 49ers with DeForest Buckner when he was most dominant. It reminds me of that. Paye, DeForest Buckner, kind of like Armstead and DeForest Buckner. So I really like that. Hopefully they get more of that production. You see that he's ready to break loose to get a lot more production because he's a disruptor. I think that having Buckner's key here. So I really like that. Colts their pass rush went from the bottom of the NFL to I think a pretty big boost from just this one pick. So I think that's fantastic. I really like it here. Again, in terms of the value, like not wow, no steal here, but I still got to give it an A. I again really like the fit. It really made the Colts better here. It really made them better. And that very well could have been their best passer. I think Jalen Phillips had to be pretty much everyone's, but he's right there just because of the fit. 22, Caleb Farley. I gave it a B+. It's a very tough one to grade because remember what I kept saying? Farley is the best corner, or going to be. I said going to be the best corner in the class if he is healthy, but I did have him at 3 because it is a major concern. Some teams thought he needed more surgery. Based from the last injury. That last injury happened by weightlifting. That's a little scary. But the Titans, I don't think, wouldn't have taken him, unless they thought he was okay right now. They took the chance on, it kind of feels a little better if the Titans end up with him because they take that chance on Jeffrey Simmons and then end up working out. So maybe they're confident. Maybe we can trust their medical team here. Overall, you might have got the best. Even if he's healthy right away, he may not look like the best. I'd say money's on Surtain looking like the best one right away. But say like 3-4 years from now, maybe less, 2-3 years from now, if he's healthy, I think they got the best corner. Tremendous upside. Remember, he was a quarterback turned receiver, turned corner, and looked like a natural right away. Rare thing that you see, he runs the routes for the receiver. He recognizes the route, runs it for the receiver, takes over. I love that. It's so rare. It's one of those picks. It's a little nerve-wracking probably because we gotta really wait. We gotta wait for all of them. We really gotta wait and see for this one though. But Farley and Janoris Jenkins out there, maybe Fulton in the slot perhaps, looking a lot better there. The whole defense in general. 23, Christian Darsaw, the Vikings, I definitely gave this one an A+. Darsaw was kind of like the grade A pick if they took him at 14. They trade back with him on the board. You start to question a little bit, and they gain 2 third-round picks, and they still get him at 23. I'm psyched about this pick. The Vikings have been looking for a left tackle for a long time. That's why it was tough. They've been looking for a legit left tackle, not the gamble left tackles, for a long time, and they were finally picking 14. You finally can get the guy, and they almost kind of blew it there, to be honest. But they get 2 third-round picks out of it, and they get Christian Darsaw, their guy, plug-and-play left tackle. Like I said, I thought his tape in 2020 reminded me of Trent Williams a little bit, and I thought it was the second best tape from a single season from this tackle class, even though he was tackle number 3. 12 on my board, so the Vikings get pretty good value at the same time picking up some picks. So that was big time for them. I know a lot of the fans did want Darsaw as well at 14 again, so pretty big. Najee Harris, I like Najee Harris, very likable guy, very good running back. He elevated his game in terms of catching the ball to the backfield. It feels like they finally got a legit, true number 1 running back. A lot of question marks, even though Connor was good at times. It feels a little more set now. But what good is it without the offensive line as well? But that doesn't mean you had to take offensive line here. But I don't know if there's really the best value with Najee Harris here. I was kind of more at the end of the first, maybe early second. It's around that range, so it's not like it's that much of a reach or anything here. It's just going to be totally different ball game for Harris going from Bama with that offensive line, with that system. The Steelers, they got a lot of work to do here, so not really in love with it. I'm sure they'll probably get. I think what they liked was his pass catching ability, because they just weren't getting that from their running backs. There was some upside with McFarland there, but he's not a true number 1 running back, obviously. So I think they really like that, and they'll probably get some good production from him there. They just really got to upgrade the offensive line. I was starting to believe that they would take him. I just thought trade back and get him. You would trade back and still get him. The Jags aren't going to take him. This team's not going to. You look at the rest of the board. Play the rest of the board here. So if I would have felt it would have been a much better grade. A good grade overall if they would have traded back and got him. Maybe it doesn't really match up with the value, and they got a lot of work to do here. This one, Travis Etienne, he's going to be explosive. He's going to be a fine player for them, a good player with Trevor Lawrence. You got to like that. I just can't grade this that high. To me, I graded him in the second round. Why? Why did I grade him in the second round, even though he's a phenomenal talent overall? His skill, I should say. Is because questions, is he going to be able to handle a load in the NFL? And the answer really was no, because he didn't really do it for Clemson. And then the other question was, will he be able to take a number of inside runs in the NFL? And the same thing applied. He didn't really do it a whole bunch. Even when he was supposed to go inside, he would kind of just bounce it out, and he would get away with it at the college level. And he's fantastic outside. He's a fantastic slip screen maniac, obviously. But what you're banking on with him is kind of being that Alvin Kamara, the only really good running back is that does that. Very limited with carrying the ball, very limited inside, but still makes a huge impact. It's Kamara because what he's able to do everywhere else. Etienne could do those things. Well, I should say Kamara could actually take a load inside. He could. They just have their system over there with the Saints. But you're banking on he has to be Alvin Kamara. He has to be that, and he's just not. He's not as good. He's a similar style player. He's just not as good. And they have James Robinson, and I'm not one of the people that you have a running back, so you can't take one. I'm not really that. And it does make sense. Robinson will handle the inside. Etienne will handle the outside, and he'll be limited. They'll split Do you take that in the first round, though? That's what I keep coming back to. Do you take a guy you're making limited in the first? Unless he's just completely taking a load. Robinson's on the bench. We'll see. So and the Jaguars weren't a team that could reach, and they had so many picks, that there was just better available players here. They do have the first pick in the second round, so I'm not in love with it. I mean, he's going to be good. He's got his quarterback. He's going to be a good talent. Just not in love with it here with the value. 26, Greg Newsome, I gave it a B- for the Browns. A little surprised by this one. I mean, JOK fell right in their lap, so I was disappointed they passed on him. It was exactly what they needed, but, I guess they got a plan out there. They really want to run a slot corner a lot with Troy Hill so that, they didn't feel like maybe they can get the best of JOK, perhaps, but I think it'd been phenomenal for them for linebacker. They go Greg Newsome, and Greg Newsome, like Farley in different ways, is a little scary of a pick because he hasn't finished an entire season. He has one season playing at a first-round level. That was that limited season this year. Didn't finish in season before that. Durability concerns, minor injuries keeping him out, coming in and off the field in the past. So it is very risky. Very risky here. Again, I would have went. There was a couple other routes I would have went, but I did give Newsome a first-round grade because he had phenomenal tape this year. Based off this year, which was only with 5 or so games, you're probably better than 26, but that's really not how it goes. You got to factor in everything else as well. Secondary looks great for the Browns, and they're building to cover the Chiefs, really. That's what they're building for here. So the secondary looks damn good. It looks complete. Hopefully they stay healthy. Greedy Williams looks like he might have lost his job here, and he had the durability concerns as well. But secondary looks great. So overall, good grade here, B-. So hopefully he stays healthy. 27, Rashad Bateman, I gave it an A. Is a great pick. It's kind of that receiver that the Ravens wanted here, that they needed. A guy that can absolutely dominate the slot, but he can play outside as well. Getting both, because Hollywood's just a speed guy outside. It's a way better version of Miles Boykin. Boykin has way more length, but for a over 6 foot receiver that can, he's kind of a slot guy that can play outside because of his length. Bateman is that. He's that. So. That made a lot of sense to me that they got that type of guy. I think, he'll be fantastic with Lamar Jackson. There was some shot he'd be in this range, so maybe it's not crazy value, but I love it. I love the fit. I love that they pulled the trigger on a receiver finally, big time one, almost a sure thing one here. If it doesn't work out, then there's something wrong with the Ravens there for sure. So, kind of like the Eagles situation, but that's fantastic for them. Yeah, that's pretty close to being an A+. It's not tremendous value, but I love it. Love it. 28, Peyton Turner, so another D- here. The thing is, maybe what's keeping it from being an F, I do like Peyton Turner, honestly. He's growing on me the last, month or so here. He had a pretty damn good tape. He wasn't a first-round prospect. He kind of went from being a third to a second for me. Thought he'd go in the back end of the second. Thought the Saints were a possibility with their second pick. Their first pick in the second, their only pick in the second, I should say. And I was talking about in the past, he could have been a first-round prospect, if a couple of different things. He had 3 injuries throughout his career, so he does have the major injury concern, and he doesn't really have a rush plan. He has crazy motor, he's crazy explosive off the ball, and those are great things, to combine with his length and his athleticism. Great things, but really no plan. He kind of just relies on just blowing off the ball and just going, and NFL teams will figure that out. NFL tackles will stop that, so he's got to develop a rush plan. I do think he's a raw prospect. My big problem, I really, if you were watching this live, I was like, really think they were going to get Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, and I was talking myself up, like, I'm liking that even more and more, and I was ready to say the Saints won the draft, so I really want him to go that route. But let's take that away. If you're going to go this route, the upside pass rusher with the freaky length, the pretty good athleticism, Russo was that guy of the draft, and he was sitting here, so Turner was kind of the round 2 version of Russo, so I guess some teams viewed Russo as a 3-4 end, but I thought the same thing applied to Turner, but they were both 4-3 ends, really. That's where he'll play here. He can definitely be a good player. They got to get his rush plan type thing going here because, relying on the motor, he's got to stay healthy, so it's a tough one. It was a shocker to say the least. Eric Stokes of the Packers. Another one I was getting really hyped that Elijah Moore somehow fell in their lap. I was getting ready to say if the Packers get Elijah Moore and the Rodgers thing settles itself out, which I think getting Elijah Moore, does by itself, This might be the team. This might be my Super Bowl pick because that is an explosive offense. How are you going to stop that? Elijah Moore and Devonte Adams. And they didn't do it there, so that was a little unfortunate, but you can't grade a team, I guess, based on passing on one guy. I don't know about the Eric Stokes pick, though. Maybe they're seeing he can be another Jair Alexander type pick. I wouldn't really compare him to that. It felt like Asante Samuel was more that guy. There's just a number of other routes they could have went. To me, I like Tyson Campbell better than Stokes. I wouldn't have loved Tyson Campbell for the Packers, though, because he's kind of an upside corner. Campbell did give up a little more production, but he handled the ones a little better. He just had more targets at him. That was the reason he gave up more production. I thought he was a much smoother corner there. Stokes, it's just really tough to figure out, is he better zone? Is he better man? He gets too far in his back pedal sometimes. I thought to me he was a solid early round 2 corner. We're right there. It's 29th pick, so it's not terrible. I just thought there was a lot of the routes they could have went, specifically at the cornerback position. I don't know if it's that major of an upgrade over Kevin King here. You still desperately need receivers. You might need to pay attention to the offensive line, inside linebackers, defensive line, so... and they could have used a corner. It could work out here. I like his length, his athleticism. It's just... I'm just not in love with it here. I'm just not in love with it. So I gave it a C+. Bills take Gregory Rousseau, B+. I like Rousseau. I like him in this range, very close to being in that A- range here because I did really want the Bills to get a pass rusher because they just need to get to the quarterback more. Rousseau did have his production. It was from different ways, though. Will he be playing that way with the Bills inside? He could. They could move him around a little bit. My problem is the Bills haven't really been getting the most out of their pass rushers. Is it because they're getting the wrong pass rushers on their team? Is it because they're teaching something wrong, developing wrong? And Rousseau, you kind of got to get that out of him. He's still not polished. He's got to know how to use his length and win off the edge, around the edge, which he hasn't really done, even though he's won in general. So that's kind of the question here. Will the Bills be able to get the most out of him, what they have not been able to do with the other guys? So that's kind of the question, but B+, good grade, kind of borderline A, because I did want them to get an edge rusher like this. I do like Rousseau. I do think he could play that 4-3 end spot for him. 31, Ravens strike again with another A, 2 A's in the day. I love Jason Oweh here. Freaky dude, maybe the freakiest athlete pass rusher in NFL draft history. And he's not just that. He uses it on the field. He's a disruptor. He didn't get the sacks, but he's very close to breaking through to getting those. He's very good stopping the run. He doesn't really have much of a rush plan. It's kind of just jam myself in there with my speed and my strength, But I think Don Martindale, a very good defensive coach, would be able to get a lot out of him here, So they'll use him in unique ways for sure. He's obviously going to play off the edge, and he's athletic enough to learn the coverage aspect that the Ravens need from their edge rusher. So I like this one a lot. Tons of upside here. Could end up being one of the better pass rushers from this class. Another pass rusher, the Bucs go Joe Tryon. I gave it an A, too. We're starting to hear that Joe Tryon can go first round. I gave him a first-round grade. He goes right at the end. I really like the fit here. Buccaneers run a 3-4. That's where he fits, a 3-4 pass rusher. Really productive pass rusher from Washington in 2019. I guess the risk is he's had one good year and opted out this year. But I think he could even be more production. He kind of played a hybrid role where he was a pass rusher at times and almost an off-the-ball linebacker at times. And he's going to be a pass rusher for the Buccaneers. Don't get me wrong here, but I think his ability to drop is really going to play very well with this unique defense of Todd Bowles. Because it is a 3-4, but they get a little creative. We've seen down the stretch, we've seen JPP playing on the D-line rather than that 3-4 outside linebacker spot. So they can use Tryon, JPP, Shaq Barrett all at the same time. They can rush them all at the same time. They can have Tryon drop back in coverage and rush, guys like Barrett and JPP in the D-line. So I really like it. I really like the fit. Growing on me for sure. Makes sense to me, so I'm liking it. But that is our grades. This went on a little longer than I thought it would. That is our grades for Round 1 of the NFL Draft. We'll have you covered with my breakdown of every single Day 2 and Day 3 draft pick on our Twitter. I'll tweet it out right after it happens, my reaction. So going to be a lot of fun. You have to follow that Twitter for that. It'd be very key here for this time of the year. Always talking with you guys there, posting polls as well. Please subscribe. We got more videos coming today, Day 2 mock draft, a lot more on the way. Insane amount of content here, keeping you updated on our Twitter with our schedule and things like that as well. But that's going to do it for this one. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.